ready to embark on a journey towards becoming the next generation of millionaires, the faithful way.
It is good to be here. It's always exciting to be right here on Radio Christian Voice. And thank you very much for always choosing Radio Christian Voice. Next generation of millionaires. Welcome to it. And we've had a number of programs and we've had very insightful conversations with Dr. Kennedy Musonda, who is right here in the studio with me. How are you?
Very well, sir. How are you?
I'm good. And welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back again.
Yeah, we've had very insightful, great conversations in the past episodes.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to this one.
So am I.
All right. And so maybe as just getting to know a little bit more about you, I think this is what we're going to focus on today's program. And just trying to, get something about you. I know that, you're not just an esteemed economist and wealth creation expert, but also you're a devoted family man. And you're a pastor, and you're an experienced consultant, in international development. And I know you and I, even earlier on, were just having conversations on some of the works that you are doing internationally. But so just from there as well, for somebody who's listening, maybe we could just get into your life, about your family. Maybe you could just get to let us in that part of your life as well.
Okay. Yeah. I thank you for that. It's usually difficult to talk about yourself. It's better off other people are talking about you.
Yeah.
I remember one time when I was still doing work in employment, I went with my boss to, I think we were in a meeting, and my boss was introducing me to someone. And so when he was talking about me, I was wondering, is he really talking about me or is somebody else? You know the way you sometimes there's a tendency to underestimate, what you have done, but when you hear it from somebody else, you hear it very, very differently. Yeah. So I like you've indicated, I'm a person from a humble background, maybe not very humble, but humble all the same. I grew up in the village until I was 15. And I'm very proud of that heritage because I played. That's all I used to do. And I finished the syllabus of childhood. I have no regrets. No hangovers about, I did what, I played like no man's business. But in terms of where I am at the moment, I'm married. I'm married to my wife, of course. And we've been married for almost 30 years, surprisingly. Oh. Yeah, I'm surprised that time has passed so fast. Almost 30 years. In October, we are actually going to clock 30 years. And we have 4 children, 2 boys and 2 girls. A boy, the firstborn is a boy, and the lastborn is a boy. And the girls are in the middle. Firstborn son has 2 children, with the third one that we are expecting. So I'm actually not just a father, but I'm also a grandfather, a proud grandfather. One of my children's children sounds very funny. Yeah. My children's children is also Kennedy Musonda. So we have 3 generations of Kennedys. The Kennedy, then there's Kennedy the second or junior, and then we have Kennedy the third. I hope Kennedy the third will have Kennedy the fourth, and I hope I'll still be alive at that time to see my grandchildren's children. So that's about me. I don't know if there's anything more that you want to find out about family, or that's. I think in brief, you have a family side.
You have a family side.
Yeah.
And so in case you've just tuned in, this is Next Generation of Millionaires. And we've had programs already talking on youth empowerment, and just, the focus of this particular program And so today we thought, you know what, I think it's wise for us to know Doc, who's always here giving us information, and Don was very passionate about this particular program. And so that's why we're getting into this, so that we could know him a little bit better. But you can also talk to us. So feel free to talk to us. Send us a message on 0960 200 Send us a WhatsApp message, a text message, or simply follow us on any social media platform: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and YouTube. Radio Christian Voice. And let's get interactive. And so, Doc, you have a beautiful family, and it keeps on growing. And your prayer is to see more Kennedys.
Yes, the Kennedys.
The Kennedys must continue. But obviously, you have an impressive professional background with 30 years of experience. And could you share with us, some highlights of your professional journey?
Yeah. That's interesting. Again, that also has passed very fast. It's amazing that it looks like it's just a few years ago when I entered the world of employment. I still remember that day very vividly. My first employer was World Vision Zambia. That's I started immediately after I graduated from University of Zambia, and then I worked there for 5 years plus. I reached a point where I was overworked and underpaid, so I left. I joined Irish Shed in Kasama. I worked there for 1 year. I left. I joined SOS Children's Village as the first director. One day I got upset, and in the mood of being upset, I saw an advert in the newspaper and I applied. Long after I was already gone over what had upset me, because I was going through challenges with the workplace. I was called for interviews. Now I got stuck. But anyway, I was employed by USAID. And it was amazing at that point. It was by God's grace, because they wanted somebody with a master's. At that time, I just had a first degree. But of course, I had started working on the master's program. That's why, and I worked the longest with USAID. I worked for 7 years. And it was during that period when I was at USAID that I began to get into understanding wealth and beginning to learn and study, and started teaching, started doing programs, TV, radio, writing newspapers. It became so exciting that the work that I was doing, and especially that I'd done it for 7 years, became boring. So I left employment permanently. So basically, I have 14 years of work experience in terms of employment, but I have 16 years of consultancy. So I've been a consultant for the last 16 years since I left employment. So basically, that is that. I actually have 3 lines of professions. And my 3 lines of professions are: number 1, international development. So I'm into development. I do a lot of work internationally, but mostly in the region. Let me just say in Africa. I'm yet to do one outside Africa. So in Zambia and surrounding countries and East Africa. And one of the craziest things I've ever done, which I regretted actually, I went to Somaliland. And previously, I knew Somalia, but I didn't know that there's Somaliland until somebody I was working with on the program told me, no, Somaliland is a separate country. So that program I was consulting with, a British funded program, they asked me if I could go and monitor a program in Somaliland. And I think at that time I was broke, I had no money, so the temptation, why not? And then I decided to go. The day I was going, I received a notice from the agents that had employed me about Somaliland and how dangerous it is. In the morning, the air ticket was already bought. And then they said the British government does not get involved in its workers that get captured. I can't remember. I didn't even tell my wife. I said, but how do they give me this thing the day I'm going? If they had told me earlier, maybe I would have decided not to go. And then I go to Somaliland. I was so scared. But then I found a colleague from Zimbabwe. He had been there for 2 years. Yeah, because you see few Somalis here, but there you go, the whole city, they just so it was interesting and scary. And when we had to work outside Hargeisa, which is the capital city, but the policy there is that if at least at that time, if I think that must have been 2018 or so, if you're going outside Hargeisa, you need police escort. And imagine we are going in the field. I think we may have probably 100 kilometers or so, or 80 where we're going. We always had a police car with 2 policemen with AK-47. And every time we are going towards the roadblock, they will overtake us, go and tell them, and then we were just passing. Even in the field, in the village, I had police escort for the first time. But you start having crazy ideas. Yeah, what if the same people turn around against you? Yeah, but it was crazy. But I enjoyed, I enjoyed in the sense that there I saw the Bible in action. It was like you're in Israel. First, the guy I was working with was able to narrate his genealogy the way it is in the Bible. And he was even saying that we are not like you guys. Can you name your genealogy? I think that time I didn't have a grandchild. So I started with my grandfather, my father, myself, my son. I ended there. The guy started talking about my so. He went on and on and on. I think he said he could do 14 generations.
Wow.
Then I saw the goats and the sheep together. I saw the camels. I stepped my feet in the Red Sea. It was just the clothing they have is very close to the Jewish. So that was exciting about that. But anyway, that's beside the point. Yeah, so I've been a consultant. I'm still a consultant up to now. In addition to that, I'm a pastor. I've been a Christian for 35 years. I got saved at the right time. Just when I completed secondary school, I got saved. When I wrote exams, I was a sinner. When I was going back to get my results, I was a Christian.
Okay.
When I went back, I started looking for classmates who were Christians, and they refused that you can't be a Christian. But I'd become a Christian. And that's the most important decision I've ever made. It has transformed my life. The path that I've taken, the children that I have, the spouse, everything I've done, I attribute it to God. So that's and I spent about 17 years with Tabernacle of David and Bishop Harrison Sakala. Even if I didn't know that I was being mentored, but actually now that I became a pastor, or I've become a pastor, and now just look back and just realize just how much I learned and how easy it has been as a pastor. So we started a church in 2021, 2021 in October, which we started without any external help, zero, nothing. It was just me, my wife, and my children. The first service we had was very memorable because what we did, we invited all our relatives. My wife has a number of siblings who are married with their children. A few of my relatives were there, some friends, some neighbors, and it was just awesome. And some of the few friends came and joined us on that day, and they've been with us ever since. And we really thank God for His grace. We've done, I think this is 1 year, 8-9 months, and we have seen the hand of God. Yeah, so.
All right, beautiful. 0960 200 490. Do come through, and let's get interactive. We have Dr. Kennedy Musonda with me in the studio. It is Next Generation of Millionaires right here on Radio Christian Voice. And so just hearing both your professional career and also your work in ministry it's like really amazing, and just how you've balanced everything, because I know sometimes people just believe like, oh, you can't be this person who's, very much into wealth creation and yet be a pastor and kind of like balance it all together. So I think it's quite commendable.
Maybe it came as an accident.
I know, like there's always this thing. Sometimes people think, oh, okay, if you're a believer, you're a pastor, then stay away from anything related to how you should make money or think of how you should make money.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't call myself as a conventional pastor. I am not that I'm looking down on other pastors. I commend them for having been pastors all their lives. I being a pastor now is like being a parent. You only understand your parents when you become a parent yourself. So I really appreciate. I basically, I was a pastor at a local church pastor for 2 years. I was an elder for 17 years at Tabernacle of David. But really being in charge of a church, and not an established church, but a church that you start from zero. You pray, you pray for months, and then you see it getting established. It has been by God's grace. I have been growing into these areas. Like I mentioned, I said I have 3 areas of 3 lines of professions. If there's anything like that, I just mentioned 2. I missed the other one. I think I went off tangent. Is that so I started with social work. That's why I'm in international development, and that's where I raise money to create wealth, mostly. But I've also, when I was about to complete my master's degree in social work, I started thinking to myself, what am I going to be doing? Because at that time where I was working, I didn't have a lot of work, because apparently the position that I had, the one who was a country director brought in somebody who worked with somewhere else. So they just changed the names, from a specialist, that one became an officer. I literally had no job. So instead of getting frustrated, I started just studying. So I was just studying and studying and studying. People would think I'm very busy in the office, but I was studying. I had nothing to do. Now, when I finished one, then I said, what am I going to do? I jumped. I started an MBA. I started doing, and fortunately, not unfortunately, I graduated at the same time in South Africa. I did one with University of South Africa, the other one with Mankosa. The other one I graduated on a Saturday. The other one I graduated on a Tuesday. So it was just one trip, how it coincided. I went to South Africa with 1 degree. Of course, I had a first degree and a postgraduate diploma in management studies. I was coming back with 2 master's degrees, So, and then immediately we finished, we said the classmates that we were studying together said, let's start consultancy, and then we started registering, and but we are 4 of us. The other 2 were not interested, so we remained the 2 of us. But we had also agreed, let's look for a university where we can do our PhDs. I found one which didn't need us to go for residential and all these things, and I'm the only one who registered with that. I showed, guys, we'll fund this university, we can start in America and all that. I finished, and I began to study. And so the route of doing business administration, which really opened up my mind, and that's why I recommend, and I'm glad you have a master's in business administration.
Yeah.
I take business administration, like I mentioned in the previous programs, that first degree is just, it's just, one of those things that you need as part of your life. It's not, it's a life skill that you need. Then from there you can start building on top of that. I believe that every young person, there are 2 main areas that a young person must focus on. One, start business administration if you want to create wealth, because it will teach you the structure of a business, the functions of a business, how a business is run, and all that. So you will have a framework of how business is done. And when you do that, you can turn anything into a business. You know, basically, business is as simple as find a problem affecting enough people, solve that problem, you are going to be a millionaire. You know, so that is what we need to understand. It's very important, business administration. Anyway, beside the point. Then at another point, I had decided I need to do theology, and I didn't do theology to be a pastor. I think I got tired with every time somebody is preaching, he will say, this word does not really mean this. You know, in Greek, this word means this. So and I know, so I had put out one of the things I should do is to start theology. And on the list of things, I think I have a list of things that I want to do before I die. And one of them was that do theology, in fact, I wanted a diploma in theology. So what I decided to do, I wanted to do earlier, but I was still doing a PhD. So I waited until I graduated, then I enrolled. And when I enrolled, instead of going for a diploma, I enrolled for a degree. And when I began to learn, I was so shocked and so upset with all my pastors and priests that I've ever had. Because when I started learning, I realized I knew next to nothing when it comes to theology. I was so shocked that I didn't know even basics. I didn't even know who church fathers were. Or whatever. And I know my pastor then would mention Polycarp. Is the only one I heard about from him, Polycarp. But then I began to learn. I began to know about church history, how the church has evolved. I learned, and I just got so consumed in this that when I was studying, I was not studying, like we've mentioned in the past programs, to get a certificate. You know, I was not studying to get a career like a lot of my classmates were doing. You know, I had 2 PhDs and 2 masters at that point, and the first thing. So I didn't, but I went there to get the knowledge, you know. And I actually asked the vice chancellor if I could be writing assignments longer than the page limit would be like 8. I said, would you allow me to write more? He says, so I would write, and I would go beyond the limit of the assignment to grow into other things that are related, because I was after knowledge. And it was so amazing to write an assignment on the things of God when I had many years of writing assignments on dead things, but to write an assignment about life, you know, eternal life, about things of God, you know, I enjoyed systematic theology. And from when I was in a class, I felt like God was telling me to go and preach theology. And before I graduated, I was still in, I think, second year, I started a theological class at my former church. And we started training students. But meanwhile, I was also a student. We were authorized. I partnered with the university, and we started teaching. We were given authority to do a certificate in theology. One of the programs that I'll be doing with Radio Christian Voice is actually to teach theology on air, especially reaching people who are in rural areas who can't go to theological schools. Let them have the basics. I call it functional theology, you know, like from functional literacy, where you need to learn to read, to write, to be able to function in this society. You know, so that's what basically I've done, and I've enjoyed. I just realized, to know what there is to be known about theology and theological issues, I needed 2 or 3 lifetimes. You know, it just opened up my mind. amazingly. And from that time, I've been teaching theology. I teach theology on air. I teach theology online. I'm reducing. I am trying to prevent the temptation of turning a church into a theological school, and the like. So that's basically, I probably might end up doing a PhD in theology, because at the moment I'm doing a master's, although I'm having real difficult balancing now with so many things that I'm doing. But I'm actually doing a master's in theology, which I've really enjoyed, especially the theological part, because now I'm doing a dissertation. I passed, so I'm doing a dissertation, and it's exciting. So if I do that, in terms of qualifications, not that it's any important, I don't feel any educated at all. In fact, the more I get educated, the more I just realize how ignorant I am, and how much there is to be known. Because you see, education is like building a house. The most difficult to do is to build the first house. Once you build the first house, then you realize, so it's easy. So you go to the second house, the third house, you can have as many houses. It's like even starting a company. The first one, they say, is the most difficult, but after that, because you've gained the skills. So that's, but I don't want to start. There are other areas that I'm interested in. I'm interested in law. Law intrigues me, and economics. I've actually done business administration with some economics courses, but not economics itself. But I've just said, well, I think I'm moving towards 60. And it will not be prudent, best use of my remaining time, to start picking up another career. But theology, I think I may go to a PhD, which would make me have 3 PhDs, 3 masters, 2 first degrees. But of course, I still can't beat the late Mugabe. I heard that he had so many degrees. But I don't think he had a single PhD. Maybe that's why I beat him. Yeah. Since I have 2 and I might end up having 3. Yeah. So that's just a little bit about me. Yeah. But you've asked about balancing. It depends on your priority. What is it that is important to you? Because as a pastor, I hear people say, I have no time. I'm busy. And I also teach time management. And in time management, there's a principle that says you always have time for things that are important to you. There's a man who did a video, he was actually preaching now. It's a video, I think it's on TikTok. He says the myth of time. And he says that to say you have no time, when you say I have no time for this, you are just saying it's not important, because whenever something is important, you find time for it. So balancing things is to put things in perspective. It has to do with your goal, your vision. That should be able to control. And what is important to you, we can assess what is important to you by 3 things, particularly 2 things. How you spend your time, or what you spend your time on, and what you spend your money on. Those are 2 indicators of what is important. It's interesting, men in marriages tell their wives, I love you, but they never spend time with their spouses. They spend more time on TV, on entertainment, and all that. That's what is important. Do they spend more money on their wives? They find they spend more money on other things. The non-believing husbands, they will spend a lot of money maybe on alcohol consumption than they do. So what you spend time on determines what is important. So for me, in terms of balancing, it's a question of doing a particular thing at a time. And if you're consistently doing this, you find that you will have done a lot of things. Like somebody will say, but where did you get the time to do this thing? Where do you get the time? I compartmentalize things. I know this is I'm doing radio programs. I have to do TV programs. I have to write, and I allocate time when to do that. I have to allocate time to be with family. Our children are grown, and sometimes we remain the 2 of us with my wife. when our last two children are in school, one is in university, the other one is at the secondary school, there's a period when we remain the two of us. There was even a period when my wife remained alone for 6 weeks because I was in Zimbabwe doing consultants and all that. So you have to focus. What am I doing at this point? Plan. It's very important for one to be able to do that.
All right. And yes, we seem to be running out of time. Yeah. And it's been great just getting to hear some of the things you've done in your career and also as a pastor. And I know there is more.
we are just scratching the surface. We are scratching the surface.
I know there is more. But for now, we have to end this program.
Indeed.
And we'll be back next week. Thank you so much, Doc, for coming through.
Thank you very much, Kunda.
All right. So I had Dr. Musonda. And today, today's episode, Next Generation of Millionaires, right here on Radio Christian Voice. Thank you so much for keeping it Radio Christian Voice. We have to go now. So I have to say bye-bye, and may God richly bless you.